Make sure there's someone next to you listening together, cause this will give you a fright. A few chilling Jinn stories. One time, my mother-in-law was sitting in her bed. She looked over me and saw a woman sitting in the chair next to her bed, with long, pointy fingers and a face with very sharp angles. She was so frustrated and annoyed with the jinns, as my mother-in-law sees them a lot in their house. They are no longer afraid, just really annoyed by them. She was so annoyed, she reached out and grabbed the jinn by his wrist. She yelled, "Get out! I'm tired of you! Get out!" It started to try to pull its wrist away and eventually tried to bite her hands because she wouldn't let go. She pulled her hand away before it bit her, and the jinn vanished. Sleepless night. So apparently in Saudi, my aunt lived in a house that was always being visited by a particular jinn who used to annoy her family a lot. Once, she was laying in bed at night with her husband. She felt that something was off, and when she left the room, she found her husband watching TV on the couch. When they went back to the room to confront the jinn, it just laughed and went away. The jinn in the courtyard. My great uncle went to visit his cousins in India. His cousins told him that since it was summertime, that they would all sleep in the courtyard together. However, they told him he wasn't allowed to place his bedding in a particular corner. Apparently, a jinn slept there, and strange things happened if anyone disturbs that corner. My great uncle said it was nonsense and decided to sleep there anyway. One night, he woke up on the other side of the court. He laughed at first and thought it was his cousins who were pranking him, and decided to sleep there again. The following night, the same thing happened again. So he left a note next to his pillow saying, "Stop pranking me. I know there is no jinn." That night, he said he was pushed off his bed and his bedding was thrown on the other side. A note was thrown into his lap which said, "I sleep here." The scary part is, it wasn't that dark and there was no one there. A night-time prayer. There was a man who went to his village mosque to pray Fajr every morning. The mosque is on a dirt road and the front door leads directly into the prayer area. One morning, when he went to pray, he found no one else there. So he prayed by himself at the front of the room. While he was praying, he undoubtedly felt a presence behind him, as if there were people standing behind him. Furthermore, he felt as if there was a bright, shining light behind him. After his prayer, He quickly turned around to find that the room was empty, just as he entered. That same day, he ran into a friend of his who said, "Hey, I saw that there was a huge turnout at Fajr today. I walked by the masjid and through the front door I could see rows and rows of men all dressed in white." The fiery steps. When I was little, in Sudan, my family had a farm, and it was a special place to me. But this farm, wonderful as it was terrifying at night. That might have something to do with the fact that the farm was in between the Nile and the graveyard. And one day, as we were pulling up to the farm, I saw fire that was the size of a person. That is to say, a fire that was exactly the size of a human being. From far away in the farmhouse, casually I watched this fire take a few steps to the left while nothing else was caught on fire and then vanished. You might say that I had an overactive imagination as a 10-year-old. I would say that you're incorrect, because I remember it incredibly vividly. I told my mom, I told my dad, and one of them casually mentioned that I might have seen a jinn. The man with long, scraggly hair. When I started writing about jinns, I would have these very interesting, vivid, imaginary encounters with them. I was about to move to Egypt, and I had this small room in which I had a large desk, too large for the room, and a bed. And in order to get into bed, I had to push the desk chair all the way under the desk, because there wasn't enough room for me to get in and out. So one night, I had gone to sleep, and I sort of half awoke, because I thought I heard something clearing their throat, or moving something. And there, in my desk, staring at me, was this guy, this man, with long, scraggly hair, and these extremely intense eyes, and he was just looking, and I sat straight up in bed and screamed as one might. Naturally, you know how this story ends. There was nothing there, of course. The interesting thing, and the reason why this stuck with me in a way that most dreams I had as a kid did not, was because that chair that I had pushed all the way under the desk in order to get into bed had been pulled out, and it was facing the bed. Don't mess with the Ouija board. 6 years ago, we moved houses, and everything was fine until we stupidly got the Ouija board out, and we decided to ask it some questions, and it somehow came up with a phone number. We called the phone number, and I don't remember what the name was, but the name the board gave us matched the person. So we hung up, and then a few days later, my mum heard a voice calling her name from downstairs. She thought it was my dad, so she went downstairs, but it was a white shape. So we called an imam, a wise man, and we thought that he had got rid of it. But it didn't. It kept happening to all of us. We kept hearing our names coming from downstairs, even though there was no one downstairs. Our furniture kept on moving. There's this house in Lahore that belonged to my extended family. All 4 brothers that lived there with their wives and families. Sadly, all 4 of them died under mysterious circumstances, and they died all very young. So the house is just occupied by 4 widows and their kids, who are my cousins who I hung out with growing up. It seemed like time and space just didn't work the same way in that house as they do everywhere else. There was an upstairs section to the house, and my aunt was always telling us not to go up there. But we were kids, and we just wanted to have another playing area. So we went up there, and the furniture was all facing in the wrong directions, not set up properly. An hazardly place. So we rearranged the furniture and set it up so it could be like a lounge. But the next day we went up there again, and the furniture was set up in the exact same way as before we moved it. We asked everyone if anyone went upstairs and moved the furniture. Everyone said no.